What if I told you that there are songs not human chants, but melodies from heaven capable of opening a door directly to the heart of God? Sounds that don't come from choirs or earthly instruments, but that echo from a place where time and space cannot reach. Imagine for a moment that you could hear them now. Feel the vibration that not only touches your ears, but penetrates your soul, revealing secrets humanity has never dared to uncover. Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever felt as if an invisible music were calling your spirit closer to the Creator? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover may surprise you. There are hidden messages in these chants that go far beyond simple words or sounds. They are like spiritual keys, each note carrying a fragment of a divine code, each melody opening a portal to understanding mysteries that, until now, have been kept only for those ready to hear. In moments of deep prayer, some claim to have felt this sonic presence, as if angels were intoning harmonies that do not fit into any known musical scale. These experiences are not merely emotional, they are spiritual encounters, capable of transforming hardened hearts and rekindling nearly extinguished flames of faith. But there is something even more intriguing. Reports indicate that hidden among these heavenly notes are 7 specific messages, 7 revelations that were not written in books nor recorded in speeches, but transmitted solely through sound. You might be thinking, but how can a melody carry a message? The truth is, since ancient times, music has been used as a bridge between the divine and the human. David played his harp, and evil spirits were driven away. Solomon's temple was filled with songs that brought the people to their knees before the glory of God. And in the visions of many saints, mysterious songs were heard as preludes to prophetic revelations. If all this happened before, why not now? What few know is that, behind these sacred melodies, there may be a preparation for times yet to come. Some call them songs of warning, others songs of consolation. The fact is, as you listen to them, just with your ears, but with an open heart, you begin to realize that each sound is like a thread pulling your soul closer to divine purpose. And perhaps, by understanding these 7 hidden messages, you will discover that they were not intended just for visionaries or saints, but for ordinary people like you and me. Now imagine the scene, a moment of profound silence, perhaps in the wee hours of the morning, when everyone is asleep. Suddenly, a soft melody begins to emerge, almost imperceptibly. It grows, enveloping the room, and you feel something shift in the air. Your mind quiets, your heart races, and you know without anyone needing to explain that it comes from a sacred place. This is the moment when the 7 messages begin to reveal themselves. But be careful. These revelations don't come all at once. They come like waves, each one bringing a piece of truth. And that's why, to fully understand them, you must be willing to listen until the end. To remain attentive, even when the world around you tries to drown out the sound. Today, we'll delve into this mystery together. We'll walk step by step through the melodies of heaven, deciphering what each one has to say. And when we reach the last one, you'll realize that nothing you've experienced so far has been by chance. Because, deep down, these 7 messages may be the answer you've been waiting for so long. And perhaps you didn't even know it. And now, let the first song begin to play. And as the sound of that first hymn begins to form in your mind, I want to invite you to be part of this experience in an even deeper way. If, in any way, what you've heard so far touched your heart, if it awakened memories, feelings, or even that curiosity that won't leave you alone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Sharing your experience isn't just about sharing something personal, it's also about sowing words that can encourage someone who reads it later and might need just that. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this kind of message. When you leave a comment, click like, or decide to subscribe, you're helping these stories, reflections, and revelations not remain confined to a small circle, but travel to places and people who might otherwise never hear about them. It's as if, together, we're part of a larger choir, spreading these spiritual melodies beyond the walls of where each of us is now. So, if this topic resonates with you, if you want to continue walking with me through these mysteries, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay with us. Because every time you interact, this flame stays lit and this voice continues to echo. Now, close your eyes for a moment and allow the second chant to come closer, bringing with it the next revelation. When we talk about heavenly songs and hidden messages, it's impossible not to think of a small village called Medjugorje, located in Bosnia and Herzegovina. This quiet and seemingly ordinary place has become, since 1981, one of the most talked about spots in the world when it comes to spiritual experiences. It was there that 6 young people claimed to have seen the Virgin Mary not just once, but repeatedly over the decades. These encounters weren't limited to silent visions. They were accompanied by messages, guidance, and even warnings about the future. Many of these accounts describe an atmosphere so intense that even the air seemed to carry a different vibration, as if heaven had come closer to earth. What's striking is that these visionaries, ordinary people, young men from humble families, weren't seeking fame or prominence. On the contrary, their lives were completely changed, and with it came an enormous responsibility to faithfully transmit what they heard and saw. And among the accounts, some speak of sounds, songs, and melodies that don't belong to this world. These aren't invented music, but harmonies they describe as coming from the very heart of God. Some pilgrims who have visited the site swear they heard similar sounds like invisible choirs singing in perfect synchrony and claim that these experiences have forever marked their lives. Medjugorje isn't the only place in the history of faith where this happens, but it has become one of the most symbolic due to the continuity of its events and the depth of its messages. Marian devotion has always carried this character of intimacy and transformation. Since ancient times, apparitions of Mary have often sparked profound conversions, changed mindsets, and inspired decisions that completely alter the lives of those who experience them. And the most curious thing is that, often, the power of these experiences lies not only in the content of the words, but in the way they are conveyed, in the gentleness, the peace, the silent impact that, even without rational explanation, changes the heart. There's a hidden truth in these songs that goes beyond institutional religion and enters the intimate realm of the human soul. It's as if each melody is an invitation to look within, to see who we truly are and where we are on our own journey. When a sound touches the soul, it opens inner doors we never knew existed. It's as if ancient revelations, hidden deep within, surface, reminding us of who we were meant to be. And perhaps that's exactly what these 7 hidden messages seek, to provoke a silent but irreversible transformation. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because when we talk about sounds that change destinies, we can't ignore the effect they have on our decisions. Think about how many times a song, a tone of voice, or even a silence laden with meaning has made you change direction. These moments aren't just memories. They shape our mindset, influence how we react to difficulties, and determine how willing we are to move forward, even when everything seems uncertain. In Medjugorje, many accounts speak of a similar phenomenon. People who arrived full of doubts, exhaustion, and even despair, but who, after a moment of contact with this atmosphere, felt a renewed drive to move forward. This doesn't happen because someone gave them all the answers, but because, somehow, their spirit was touched. And when the spirit awakens, the mind and body begin to follow suit. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, you see, not only where you are, but also where you can go. This is the power of an authentic spiritual experience. It doesn't force, it doesn't push, it doesn't shout. It whispers, but the echo of that whisper can last a lifetime. And the more you allow yourself to listen, the more you realize that there are layers of meaning hidden in the details. It's like walking down a hallway full of doors, and each sound, each note, is a key that opens a new space within you. Some of these doors lead to memories that need healing, others to dreams that were dormant, and still others to convictions you didn't even know you had. When we understand that these songs and messages are not just things of the past or stories to inspire, but living invitations to a journey of change, the impact becomes personal. It is at this point that Marian devotion ceases to be merely a tradition and becomes a direct experience, something that does not depend on speeches or proof, but on lived experience. And, like all profound experiences, it leaves its mark that can become guides for the most difficult days, reminding us that we are not alone and that there is a greater purpose guiding each step. With every word recounted by the visionaries, with every song heard in the silence, the feeling is that something much greater is happening behind the scenes of our story. Perhaps it's preparation for challenges yet to come. Perhaps it's a call to strengthen our spirit before the storm. Or, perhaps, it's simply God's love finding a way to reach us without invading, without imposing, simply inviting. And it's in this invitation that the most fascinating thing lies. It's personal. It doesn't arrive packaged in universal speeches, but in gestures, sounds, and messages that seem to speak directly to you, as if they know exactly what's in your heart. This is the mark of something genuine. It fits into your life in a way no one could have planned. In there, that makes sense to me. There's a reason I call these messages from Mary a symphony and refer to them as secret songs. A symphony isn't just a collection of organized sounds. It's a musical narrative, a dialogue between instruments that, together, construct something greater than any single melody. Likewise, these messages aren't isolated phrases, nor are they disconnected warnings. They form a complex composition in which each song is like a movement, with its own atmosphere, rhythm, and specific function within the whole. Think for a moment about how music affects you. There are notes that seem to stir buried memories. Others have the power to dismantle defenses you swore were unshakable. Those deeper notes, almost like a low whisper, remind you of the weight of the decisions you must make. The soft, long chords carry a scent of peace, as if saying, "Breathe, you are safe here." And then come the choruses, repeated almost hypnotically, that make your heart race. They are invitations to action, calls that aren't content to simply move you, but demand a response. Secret songs work like this. There is one that, when spiritually heard, leads to true repentance, not just momentary remorse, but a deep awareness that something needs to change course. Another brings a serenity so intense that it becomes impossible to remain anxious or disturbed. It is as if an invisible mantle of rest were placed upon our shoulders. And there are also those that stir, that awaken the spirit from a state of apathy, calling for an active journey, for a confrontation with hidden truths that, for too long, we have avoided facing. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding this symphony metaphor also means understanding why these messages come so harmoniously. In an orchestra, each instrument has its own moment to enter, its own intensity, and its own strategic silence. If they all played at the same time and in the same key, the effect would be lost. With Maria, it's similar. Some messages arrive, like a solitary, almost shy violin, bringing personal advice that only you understand. Others arrive like a full choir, echoing powerfully to crowds, like a warning that needs to be heard by everyone at once. This organization isn't random. It's a process that respects our individual journey, the time it takes for our mindset to mature, and our openness to receiving certain revelations. Some people, upon hearing a song of repentance, immediately feel the need to change. Others must first experience the song of peace before being ready to face the weight of a more radical transformation. It's as if there's a script behind the scenes, a planned sequence so that each movement prepares the heart for the next. And here's something fascinating. In a symphony, even silence is part of the music. Intervals, pauses, are essential for the next note to have an impact. Likewise, there are periods when messages seem to pause, not because nothing is happening, but because heaven is creating the necessary space for what has already been said to reverberate within us. This space is where we process, where we decide what to do with what we've heard. It's the interval between seed and sprout. Secret songs, in this sense, are not just sounds or words, they are spiritual atmospheres. When a movement touches repentance, it's not just to make us feel guilty, but to cleanse the inner terrain. When another movement brings peace, it's not just to relax, but to create the fertile soil where obedience and courage can grow. And when the refrain that calls to action arrives, it doesn't arise from an empty heart, but from one already prepared, attuned, and ready to respond. The most powerful thing about this metaphor is realizing that we, the listeners, are also part of this symphony. We're not just sitting in the audience. We're in it. Our decisions, reactions, and attitudes toward the messages are part of the melody being written. If we resist, the harmony changes. If we respond, the music expands. It's a constant dialogue, in which each choice adds or subtracts from the composition. There are those who listen to just one movement and feel they've already understood everything. But a symphony isn't understood at the first note. To go through each variation, each shift in tone, to perceive the grandeur of what's being revealed. Likewise, Mary's secret songs cannot be fully understood unless we allow ourselves to hear all of her movements, even those that challenge, disturb, or confront us with parts of ourselves we'd rather avoid. When we can grasp this, the impact is transformative. Our mindset stops seeking only quick consolation and begins to desire real growth. Revelations cease to be nice stories and become guides for concrete decisions. And, little by little, we understand that this is not just an isolated spiritual experience, but an invitation to participate in something that is happening far beyond our immediate perception. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. Hearing this symphony isn't something that happens by chance, nor is it rushed. Just as a musician needs to tune his instrument before playing, we too need to tune our spiritual ears to capture the true tone of these secret songs. They are not ordinary sounds, and precisely for this reason, they require a different inner disposition, a listening posture that transcends the noise of everyday life. The first practice that creates space for this is silent prayer. I'm not just talking to God, but creating moments to simply be before Him without saying anything, allowing the heart to breathe and the mind to slow down. Silence is a fertile field where the subtlest notes become audible. Many seers and mystics claim that without this stillness, it's impossible to distinguish the whisper of heaven from the confused voices of the world. It's in this space of calm that the melody begins to emerge, almost imperceptible at first, but with increasing clarity as the soul grows accustomed to hearing it. Another fundamental practice is fasting. More than a physical renunciation, fasting is an exercise in self-mastery, a gesture that says, "My body does not govern my spirit." It cleanses not only the body, but also the inner realm, reducing interference that often blocks the perception of what is sacred. It is as if, by fasting, the spiritual hearing is purified, becoming capable of capturing nuances that previously went unnoticed. Contemplative reading also plays an essential role in this attunement. Unlike speed reading, which is designed to accumulate information, contemplative reading invites you to delve into a few words and let them resonate within you. It could be a verse, a passage from a psalm, or even a quote from a saint who experienced intimacy with God. When you read slowly, savoring each sense, it's as if you're listening to a delicate solo within the symphony, something small, but carrying an enormous weight of meaning. And then there's the examination of conscience. Not as a simple list of mistakes and successes, but as a sincere investigation into the direction of your life, the decisions you've made, and the state of your heart. This practice is like adjusting the strings of a violin. Small changes can make all the difference in the final harmony. When we identify where we're out of tune, whether in our actions or thoughts, we make room for the celestial melody to fall back into place. These practices, combined, form a kind of training. Just as a conductor demands that his musicians repeat passages until they are perfectly aligned, the heavens also call us to cultivate constancy. The seers and mystics who report hearing these melodies speak extensively about the importance of maintaining a rhythm, a daily commitment to these habits, because spiritual attunement doesn't happen overnight. It is the result of perseverance, of conscious choices that shape the mindset and prepare the spirit to perceive even the gentlest touch of grace. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because it's not enough to simply adopt these practices as tasks on a list. They need to become a living part of your journey, imbuing your days with purpose. Silence, for example, is not just the absence of external noise, but the decision to calm the internal chaos, to not let yourself be dominated by anxious thoughts or hasty judgments. Fasting is not just going without food, but learning to let go of what is immediate to reach what is eternal. Contemplative reading is not just knowledge, but light that penetrates what was hidden. And self-examination is not a burden, but a map that guides us back to the path when we stray. When lived this way, these practices cease to be obligations and become part of who you are. They shape the way you perceive life, sharpen your sensitivity to notice signs others ignore, and open space for secret chants not only to be heard but to become part of your own inner melody. It is at this point that the symphony ceases to be something distant and begins to dwell within you, each note echoing in the decisions you make, each chord influencing how you see the world, each chorus strengthening your ability to stand firm, even when the storm approaches. Comment there. That makes sense to me. The first movement of this spiritual symphony begins almost imperceptibly, as if coming from far away. It's a soft, unhurried chant, yet it carries an irresistible force. It doesn't invade, doesn't demand, it simply beckons. It's as if each note were a drop falling into a still lake, creating circles that expand until they touch the farthest shore of the heart. The words seem to whisper something like, "Come back, my child, come back to love." And even though they're not heard with ordinary ears, you recognize them from somewhere deep within, as if you've heard them before, in a time you can't remember. This first hymn is an invitation to conversion, but not in the sense of a hasty or forced change. It's more like a return home after a long time away. It's a call to leave behind what weighs you down, what's worn out, what no longer makes sense, and return to the essential, that point where life is simpler, but also truer. It's not about becoming someone completely different, but about rediscovering who you've always been in God's eyes. Imagine you're walking down a dusty road. The sun is already low, and the path seems increasingly confusing. Suddenly, you hear this subtle choir in the distance. It carries no maps or orders, just this short phrase, repeated in a tone that blends tenderness and urgency. "Come back, son, come back to love." You stop. The sound doesn't push you, but it doesn't let you go either. It's in this pause that choice begins to formant. It's here that conversion happens, not as an isolated event, but as a direction decision. Responding to this song today may be simpler than it seems. For some, it might mean kneeling in prayer and saying, sincerely, "I need to go back." For others, it might mean turning off the noise for a moment, stopping running from oneself, and looking within honestly. It might mean asking for forgiveness, taking a step toward reconciliation, or simply admitting that it's time to change course. You don't need to have all the answers. The first step is being willing to listen. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this call to conversion is not a demand, but an act of love. It's as if heaven were saying, "I know you've lost your way, but I also know the way back," and it begins where you are now. It's a movement that respects each person's time, that understands the fears, the resistance, and even the justifications we construct to postpone this decision. But, at the same time, it's a call that never goes silent. It repeats itself at different moments, in different forms, sometimes in a song, sometimes in an unexpected encounter, sometimes in a silence so dense it seems to have a voice. This chant is like a melody that seeps into the background of our lives, playing as we go about our daily lives, until the moment comes when we realize we can no longer ignore it. And that's when something changes. Not necessarily in the external world, but in our mindset. It's as if, upon hearing this phrase, "Come back, son, come back to love," everything that seemed urgent loses some of its power, and what is truly important regains its place. There's an important detail. The hymn doesn't promise that the path will be easy. It doesn't offer shortcuts. What it offers is something greater, the certainty that you don't have to walk it alone. It's like a hand outstretched in the fog, neither pulling nor pushing, but remaining there, waiting for you to decide to hold on. The answer, then, lies not just in the words we say, but in the concrete steps we take, however small, toward what is true. If you stop and listen carefully today, you might realize that this first movement has been playing in your life for longer than you realize. It may be hidden in a feeling that insists on returning, in a memory that resurfaces in moments of stillness, or even in the restlessness that makes you feel like something needs to change. And if you decide to respond, you'll discover that this melody doesn't end here. It merely opens the way for the symphony's next movements to unfold, each bringing a new layer of revelation and transformation. Right there, I'm on this journey too. The second movement of this symphony presents itself with greater intensity, as if the melody gained body and depth. It's like a set of instruments entering into perfect harmony, bringing not only emotion but also direction. This section carries a strong and clear note: prayer and fasting as spiritual weapons. Here, the music doesn't just soothe, it summons. It's as if the composition's central phrase were repeated with firmness: be strong, open the gates of heaven. And each time it echoes, the atmosphere changes, as if something invisible, yet real, begins to move around us. Why do so many reports of healing, deliverance, and profound transformation emerge immediately after periods of intense prayer and fasting? The answer, in a way, is hidden in the very essence of these practices. When we truly pray and not just repeat words, we align our minds and hearts with a frequency that is not of this world. It's as if we tune our souls to the precise tone that resonates in heaven. Fasting, in turn, silences the voice of the body's urgency so that we can better hear the voice of the spirit. Together, they create an inner space where the supernatural is not only possible, but expected. This hymn is not as gentle as the first. It has a more marked rhythm, like drums preparing an army before a decisive battle. It is not a call to physical confrontation, but to spiritual awakening. It reminds us that there are battles that are not won with human strength, but with weapons that seem fragile to the eyes of the world, yet have the power to tear down invisible strongholds. When Mary delivers this note of the symphony, it is not to burden us with obligations, but to remind us that there is a path of authority and victory that opens only to those willing to empty themselves of themselves to be filled with God. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because the power of prayer and fasting lies not only in the act itself, but in what they produce within us. Intense prayer, when cultivated consistently, changes our mindset. It takes us out of the center of our own lives and places us in the right place in the presence of God, where perspectives shift and decisions cease to be impulses and become guided responses. Fasting, on the other hand, breaks subtle chains that we often don't even realize are there: attachment to comfort, dependence on habits that numb the soul, the constant distraction that prevents us from perceiving what heaven is saying. The reports of healings and miracles that emerge after these periods are not mere coincidences. They are the fruit of a spiritual alignment that creates an opening for God to act in ways we might otherwise not perceive. It's as if prayer and fasting clear the clouded glass of our perception, allowing light to pass through unhindered. And when that light enters, it transforms everything from how we feel to how we react to challenges. Imagine for a moment this second movement as a moment in the orchestra where the instruments play in unison with strength and clarity. There is no distraction, no hesitation. The music is direct, almost like a command that awakens someone who was drowsy. This is the energy that prayer and fasting release in the spirit: focus, clarity, and strength. They don't just change external circumstances, they change the internal territory, making it fertile for God's will to be manifested. When you answer this call, something happens behind the scenes in your life. Doors that seemed locked begin to open, not by human effort, but because the right key was turned. And often, this key is forged in the silence of prayer and the sacrifice of fasting. This is the note Mary repeats in this hymn: do not underestimate the power of what seems small, because it is precisely there that the strength capable of moving the impossible resides. Comment there. That makes sense to me. The third movement of this symphony arrives like a breeze after a storm, a gentle melody that can not only be heard, but also felt. It's as if the notes are charged with warmth, enveloping every part of the being with a touch that doesn't hurt, but heals. This is the song of peace and reconciliation. It's unhurried, unforced. It simply approaches slowly, with a harmony so delicate it seems designed to soothe even the most tense and aching areas of the soul. It's as if each chord says, "It's okay, now you can rest." This peace is not one that depends on the absence of problems, but one that arises from a real encounter with God and true reconciliation with Him and with others. It is the peace that comes when the internal war ends, when the voices of resentment, guilt, and hurt lose strength in the face of a refrain that insists on repeating, "You are loved, and love restores all." It is a peace that is not limited to an emotional state, but that becomes a firm foundation for walking. Imagine for a moment a simple scene: a person sitting at a table, looking at someone who, for so long, has been the source of pain. The silence is dense, laden with memories. Hands tremble slightly, hearts race, and a lump forms in the throat. But suddenly, something shifts. It's as if an invisible melody begins to fill the air, bringing courage to say the words that never came. I forgive you. The other, with teary eyes, responds with equal sincerity. And I forgive you too. In that moment, there is no audience, no speeches, just the almost physical sensation of a weight being lifted. The atmosphere changes, the mood changes, and, more profoundly, souls change. It's peace entering like a warm refrain that, once heard, is never forgotten. This third movement reminds us of something essential. There is no true reconciliation without humility. And this humility is not humiliation, but the courage to recognize that holding on to resentment is like carrying a heavy weight on your chest, and that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, but choosing to no longer live under the control of that pain. It's making room for the music of peace to fill the void left by conflict. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this peace, contrary to what many think, is not an endpoint. It is the beginning of a new way of living. When you experience this harmony, your mindset begins to shift. Decisions are no longer guided by the impulse of revenge or fear, but rather by a genuine desire to build, to restore, to walk lightly. It is at this moment that revelations become clearer, because the internal noise that previously distorted everything finally silences. This reconciliation, which begins in the heart, inevitably spills over into relationships. You may still need to keep your distance from certain situations or people, but what changes is how you carry them within. Resentment gives way to compassion, and even the memory of pain begins to be transformed. It's as if the song of peace rewrites the soundtrack of your life in that specific area, replacing dissonant chords with harmonies that make sense. And there's something powerful about this. Peace and reconciliation bring us closer to what truly matters. They restore our energy to invest in things that build, rather than sustaining soul-draining conflicts. By listening and responding to this third movement, you become an active part of this melody. Each gesture of forgiveness is like a new note added. Each step toward reconciliation is like a new beat that enhances the beauty of the composition. Comment there. That makes sense to me. The fourth movement of this symphony arrives with a different tone. It lacks the softness of the Song of Peace, nor the lightness of reconciliation. Here, the music changes. It's as if firmer instruments, longer, deeper notes, enter, almost like a call to attention. This is the prophetic part. The warning note that comes not to frighten, but to awaken. It's like when, in a musical piece, the conductor raises the baton and the entire orchestra joins in a moment of controlled tension, not to generate fear, but to announce that something important is about to happen. The accounts of seers and mystics who have heard messages of this kind always speak with the same intention. Warnings intended to save and prepare. It's not about creating a climate of panic, but about opening our eyes so we aren't caught off guard. Heaven doesn't send signs to oppress, it sends them because it loves. Each phrase of this hymn carries a weight of urgency mixed with hope, as if to say, prepare, but do not fear. Be strong, but do not lose heart. This preparation isn't a desperate rush to accumulate things, but a conscious journey of spiritual strengthening. It's tending the inner ground before the storm arrives. It's like a farmer who knows winter is coming and, therefore, reinforces the barn, adjusts the fences, and protects the seeds. It's a preparation that involves concrete decisions and mindset shifts. Because when the pressure mounts, it's what's firm inside that holds everything together on the outside. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this cautionary note carries a hidden truth that often goes unnoticed. Tribulations are not only times of trial, but also opportunities for revelation. They are moments when the surface breaks and what was hidden comes to the surface, both what needs healing and what needs strengthening. Preparation, therefore, is not just about hanging in there, but about being ready to act with clarity, love, and courage when everyone around you is confused or paralyzed. A practical step toward this preparation is to strengthen your sacramental life, if you live within the Catholic tradition, or to deepen your practice of community prayer, if you follow another path of faith. Being connected to a solid spiritual body is like having a net that sustains you when the currents grow stronger. It is through fellowship, sharing experiences, and collective prayer that we receive extra strength to stay on course, even when external circumstances try to divert us. Another point is inner vigilance. It's necessary to cultivate an alert heart, capable of discerning when a thought or decision is being influenced by fear, pride, or distraction. This discernment comes from the habit of being close to God every day, not just in difficult times. Those who learn to hear His voice in their daily lives will be much better prepared to recognize it when chaos increases. The hymn, in this fourth movement, doesn't promise that there will be no storms. On the contrary, it confirms that they will come. But it also guarantees that there is refuge and guidance for those who choose to prepare. And this preparation is always twofold: strengthening the spirit and staying in tune with those who share the same faith. Alone, we can endure for a time, but it is in unity that we can navigate the most challenging times without losing hope. Comment there. I'm on this journey too. The fifth movement of this symphony is like dawn after a long night. It doesn't explode with grandiose sounds, but arrives with a breath that warms and illuminates, penetrating even the most hidden corners of the soul. It is a song of healing and mercy, a melody that not only touches but permeates, dispelling shadows and illuminating where before there was only pain. The notes of this movement seem charged with an invisible balm, softening scars and restoring strength that seemed lost forever. Many who have experienced such moments describe something difficult to put into words. Some speak of a sudden sense of relief, as if a weight had been lifted from their chest without warning. Others describe tears that began to fall without knowing exactly why, but which, somehow, washed away old wounds. There are also those who report feeling a peace so intense that it seemed to come from without, as if it were being poured over them, not just born from within. It's as if, at this point in the symphony, the heavens leaned a little closer, just to whisper, "I know your pain, and I am here to heal." This hymn is sung not only for great visible miracles, but also for healings that happen behind the scenes. Sometimes, it's the rekindling of a broken friendship. Other times, it's the release of guilt that has weighed on us for years. In some cases, it's the courage to face a loss with serenity, knowing one is not alone. It's mercy manifesting itself, not as a distant gesture, but as a close, warm embrace. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because healing and mercy, in this context, are not just one-off events. They are a process that transforms our mindset and redefines how we see ourselves and others. When we are touched by this song, something shifts in our perspective. We begin to realize that, often, the deepest wounds don't need to be hidden, but exposed. It is in the act of exposing what hurts us before God that the balm begins to work. Perhaps, as you hear these words, you already have something in mind that needs to be placed before Him. It could be a physical illness, an emotional burden, or even a spiritual void you can't fill. The invitation of this movement is simple and, at the same time, profound. Bring this to prayer, even if you don't know the words to use. It's not about formulas or speeches, but about a sincere surrender, capable of opening space for mercy to find its way. When we look at real testimonies, we see this song repeated in different forms. There are those who have found healing for illnesses that medicine could not explain. There are those who have felt anger give way to forgiveness in such an unexpected way that it could only be the work of something greater. There are those who, even without having their problem resolved in the way they wanted, received new strength to carry on, discovering that healing can also be the ability to walk with hope, even in the darkest valley. And this hope is the strongest note of this fifth movement, because mercy doesn't just erase the past, but opens possibilities for the future. It reconfigures the internal and external landscape, creating new opportunities to live with more lightness and purpose. And when this happens, it's not just the pain that disappears, but also the feeling of being trapped by it. It's freedom that comes along with healing. Comment there. That makes sense to me. The sixth movement of this symphony has a warming tone. It's like a song that, from the very first chords, awakens memories of home, not necessarily of a physical place, but of a sense of belonging. Here, the melody doesn't rush, doesn't compete for space. It expands slowly, creating an environment that protects, welcomes, and unites. It's a song of family and community, a message that speaks directly to the importance of keeping our hearts and homes in tune with values that sustain us, even in the most difficult times. This movement sounds like a voice saying, take care of each other, stay united, don't let the small cracks become insurmountable walls. In the accounts of those who claim to have received such messages, there is always a strong call to protect families not only against visible threats, but also against the distractions and silent divisions that gradually erode bonds. It's a call to put relationships at the center, to prioritize quality time, and not allow rushing or differences to steal what is most precious. The beautiful thing is that this protection isn't just achieved through physical presence, but through the creation of a healthy spiritual environment. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because family and community unity doesn't happen automatically, it's cultivated. Just as a song needs rehearsal to sound in tune, relationships require daily attention to remain harmonious. And this involves conscious choices, small practices, that, when repeated, create a refrain everyone knows by heart. A practical example is family prayer rituals. They don't need to be long or elaborate to be effective. It could be a short moment before meals when everyone pauses to give thanks. It could be reading a psalm at night before bed, or even a simple phrase said together every morning as a reminder of purpose and mutual care. These repetitions, like a chorus in a song, create memory, establish rhythm, and maintain the tune of the household. The same goes for community. When a group gathers regularly to pray, study, or serve, the connection that forms extends beyond the present moment. It creates a silent but firm support network that sustains each member through good days and hard days. It's the strength of we, overcoming the fragility of me, and this isn't just a pretty concept. It's a real necessity in times when isolation, even disguised as independence, has eroded so many relationships. This hymn reminds us that maintaining faith individually isn't enough. Spirituality grows stronger when shared. The most lasting stories of transformation often have one thing in common: people who didn't walk alone. And, at its core, this isn't just about religion, but about humanity. We need each other to keep the flame of hope alive, to remind ourselves that life isn't just about surviving, but about caring and being cared for. Comment there, I'm on this journey too. The seventh movement of this symphony doesn't begin in a hurry. It announces itself slowly, as if preparing the listener for something that is not just the end of a sequence, but the culmination of the entire melody. It is the note that unites all the others, carrying within it the gentleness of forgiveness, the strength of prayer, the urgency of preparation, and the warmth of family. Here, the music becomes a living promise, a hope that never fades, even when everything around seems dark. This part speaks not only of future consolation, but of present certainty. There is a purpose that permeates every struggle, every weight, every tear. It's as if each measure says, what you experienced was not in vain. There is a restored future ahead of you. And it's not a vague promise. It's a clear invitation to persevere, to keep our eyes fixed on something greater than the present moment. It's the melody that reminds us that storms, no matter how violent, have an end, and that dawn always arrives, bringing new colors to a sky that seemed lost. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because this hope is not a fragile feeling, the kind that shatters at the first sign of difficulty. It is built on something solid, rooted in the conviction that the story doesn't end with the painful pages. The promise of this movement is that suffering can be transformed into service, that wounds can become sources of healing for others, and that even the most bitter losses can bear fruits of compassion and strength. When we understand this, something shifts in our mindset. Difficulties cease to be mere obstacles and become training grounds. Each day of perseverance becomes part of an invisible legacy, shaping not only who we are, but also the impact we leave. This is where the symphony reaches its climax. Not just touching those who listen, but inspiring action, because true hope isn't waiting. It's walking, even when your feet hurt, knowing that every step counts. This last note is also a call for vision. It's looking beyond the ruins and seeing what can be rebuilt. It's believing that a new beginning is possible, even when it seems unlikely. And, more than that, it's being willing to participate in this reconstruction not only of our own lives, but also of the lives of those who cross our path. It's the kind of promise that doesn't leave us complacent, but rather drives us to transform what we've received into something that reaches others. The hope and final promise of this hymn do not erase the past, but retell it in a new light. What was once merely pain becomes meaningful. What seemed like the end reveals itself as a chapter that made room for something greater. And when the song reaches its final pause, it is not an empty silence, but a silence filled with expectation, as if the entire heavens await the next step of those who listened and chose to respond. Comment there. That makes sense to me. Each of the 7 canticles we have covered is like a single thread that, when interwoven with the others, forms a spiritual tapestry capable of transforming lives. You have heard the gentle call to conversion, the strength of prayer and fasting, the peace of reconciliation, the preparation for tribulation, the breath of healing and mercy, the warmth of family and community, and finally, the living hope that never fades. This matters because they are not just beautiful images or inspiring concepts. They are movements that, when lived, shape our mindset, influence our decisions, and bring us closer to the hidden truth that gives meaning to the journey. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, because listening is only the first step. Making this symphony part of your life begins with simple but consistent actions. Set aside 5 minutes of silence every morning to tune your heart before starting the day. Add a sincere prayer to this moment, not as an automatic repetition, but as a real dialogue. And, throughout the week, take a concrete step toward reconciliation. Could be forgiving, asking for forgiveness, or reaching out to someone you know needs it. These gestures, small to the human eye, are notes that keep the melody alive within you. Have you ever felt something like this? Have you ever felt like an invisible song touched your spirit at a specific moment in your life? Tell us in the comments. Your story could be the light someone else needs to find their way back. And if this video spoke to you in any way, like, subscribe, and share so this symphony reaches those who need to hear it. In the description, I left you a gift, a 7-day guide to learning to hear and experience this music from heaven. It's a simple, yet profound guide to help you turn these movements into a daily practice. Which of the 7 songs is calling to you today? If you've made it this far, it's because this message spoke to you in some way. So, here's what you need to do. Subscribe to the channel to continue this kind of content with me. This is where we delve deeper, share experiences, and find the strength to carry on. And to let me know you stuck it out, leave a comment. I'm with you until the end. I'll love reading it and knowing that this entire symphony reached your heart. And leave a like too, because that's how I understand that this connection we built today was worth it and deserves to continue. There's a video right here that complements everything we talked about and will take you even deeper into this topic. Click and follow me there.